Hello, everybody. What's up? Oh my goodness. I'm so mad the camera is a little far. I can't even see who's up on here. But welcome to Bianca's Playhouse Talk Show. I am your host, Bianca, and we are back inside the Playhouse. So, I am here tonight on Friday, Fatal Attraction Fridays. I have been talking about this since I came back and did my premiere show, and I've been working hard to perfect this thing, even though this is not like my everything. It's my everything. So I'm trying to perfect it in a way. I don't like that shadow. But just trying to perfect it so that, it's enjoyable and my content is good. And with telling the stories that I'll be telling here on Fatal Attraction Fridays, I want to make sure. Okay, wait. Okay, sorry. It's so many. It's a few cameras. I want to make sure that I'm telling these stories in a respectful way, respectfully to the people who have passed in some of the stories, people who have been affected by some of these stories. So I've just been working hard to do all of that, but I am excited to get back into talking to you guys on a daily. Let me refer to my notes. But Fatal Attraction Fridays is what you guys will be seeing live. Everything else will be pre-recorded and put out on Saturdays. But Fatal Attraction Fridays, yes. Bring me your stories. If you have stories that you would like to share, please bring me your stories. Fatal Attraction Fridays, period. Overall, the show is to bring awareness to the unhealthy and unstable and ugly side of relationships. And I'm bringing awareness to it because it's so big right now in our day and time. And I know that there have been unstable relationships, forever. It's not something that's new. But having social media, we see it a lot more, especially having Murder Inc. on all of our phones. We see it a lot more than we ever did before. And so I was like, Bianca in Bianca's Playhouse always talked about love and lust and sex and relationships and being single and dating and all of those things, but I've never taken the time to talk about the ugly side. So that's what Fatal Attraction Fridays is for. Every Friday, I'll make sure I put down in the comments resources that you can go and get if you are in a domestic violence relationship, if you are in an unhealthy relationship. Even therapy services. I'll be posting therapy services for those who are looking for couple therapy and or individual therapy, because sometimes you just need a little bit of therapy, honestly, to get things together in relationships. So that is the purpose of Fatal Attraction Fridays, to bring awareness and to tell stories of people who have been affected by it, because I believe each and every one of their stories is important. If you watch Fatal Attraction on TV One or on YouTube or whatever you have to watch TV on, if you watch the show Fatal Attraction or the show Snapped, you get to see people's stories, but you don't really get the whole background. And I know for a lot of people, like, we be wanting to know, like, well, how did it get that bad, or where did it come from, or like, what happened to make things like that happen. Well, those stories that we see on TV or on YouTube or whatever are stories that happen right here in our community, right here in our sometimes, unfortunately, it's happening in our families. So tonight, I've decided to tell my own story and starting this journey in talking about unhealthy relationships and domestic violence and all that kind of stuff. I decided to tell my own story as I start this journey in hopes that maybe it'll help somebody. Maybe it'll help somebody. So I'm going to, I guess, story time, right? Because that's what everybody is saying now. I be seeing the little posts and stuff, and people be like, all right, it's story time. Okay, so it's story time for Bianca and Bianca's Playhouse Talk Show. So my story basically is I have always been an advocate and an outreach person for young women. I've always been the like power to the woman movement type of woman, and I was blessed to be raised by strong black women. So I only knew women of strength that I knew what strength, for what strength looked like to me. I only knew what the women in my family were like. I never was subjected to women who um, were abused or women who were in what I would think to be an unhealthy relationship. My dad was always around in my life, and my uncles and my grandfathers and all of that. So I didn't know what an unhealthy relationship really looked like or what it really was. However, I had been in relationships, and even in my relationships, my marriages, I still didn't think like, oh, these are unhealthy relationships when it comes to your mental stability or your physical. Because even with my first marriage, like having a little tussle, having a little like slap here, slap there, I didn't think like, oh, this is domestic violence. Or this is really unhealthy. I feel like we going through something, we got it together though, and now we good. You know, so I was always as an advocate for women, young women, whenever I had somebody come to me and tell me, something that they were going through in a relationship, or how a man was being controlling to them, or how their man was making them do certain things that they didn't want to do, or they had started changing completely for a man. Or I'm gonna say one of the biggest things for me, even now, when I hear about a woman to change her religion for a man, like things like that, I'm like, what? Like what? How? Like how could you be that way? Like you're supposed to think for yourself. Like you should be stronger than that. You shouldn't allow somebody to make you feel like that. So I tell that little piece of my backstory because being that woman and always having that mentality in my mental that could never happen to me. Nobody could ever come and be controlling to me. Nobody can tell me what to do. Nobody is gonna make me feel no type of way. Like I'm just not that's just not something that's going to happen to me. It's impossible. Like how could that possibly ever happen to me? Being in that mentality put me in that situation. I believe sometimes we speak things into fruition. Well, not sometimes, all the times. The tongue is powerful. Our words are powerful. And so I was always saying that. And then one day I met a man. I was working as Bianca in Bianca's Playhouse. And I was doing a show, and I had a bunch of girls with me, and we went into this club. And as we went into this club, um, I met this guy, and I didn't think much of it. Like, I just was like, oh, hey, how are you? Keep it pushing. And he was like, oh, you look good. Like, you should let me talk to you, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, okay, it's not going to be able to work out. It just wasn't my type of situation, that person just wasn't my type. And wait, before I finish my story, please make sure you like, share, and comment. Make sure you invite some friends to the live, to the conversation. You might have a woman or a friend or somebody you might be thinking about, like, oh, I know my friend such and such is going through something. Maybe she might need a little inspiration. Maybe she might need to hear somebody speaking about this publicly to give her the or give him, because men be in some of them situations too, to give him the to move, to leave, to move on or whatever. If that's the case, hey, listen, just send it in the inbox. All you gotta do is just share it to the inbox directly, and yeah, but invite your friends. So anyway, back to my story. So so the guy, we kind of, hey, how you doing? It just was a brush off. I didn't think much of it, honestly. And then a few years later, well, not even a few years later, like a year later, I'm bumping into this person everywhere I go, bumping, 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 and I'm like, dang, it's a coincidence. Like, oh my goodness, it's a coincidence I just seen you here. It's a coincidence I just seen you there. So That was like 2000. Okay, then so we kind of reconnected there, but it still was on a friendship type thing. Like, oh, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and give you my phone number, and call me sometimes. And so from time to time we would text or whatever, but it still was nothing deep. Like, when you gonna let me take you out? And I always used to beat around the bush because I was in and out of a relationship at that time. So it was like, no. Like when I was out the relationship, it was a maybe, but then when I was back in the relationship, it was a whole no. So it was just a lot going on. So here we are, fast forward, well, not fast forward because I'm long winded, but 2 years later, we are, I had my child, my son, and I meet this man, and well, I see this man and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, let me, again, coincidental, okay? We 2 years later. I'm thinking maybe it's fate, okay? Maybe I need to go ahead and give this man the time of day and actually talk to him and actually get to know him. And I do that. Okay, so here's where I start talking about red flags. We always hear about red flags. I think we all have our own red flags that we kind of put out there, like, this is a red flag, this is a red flag. But sometimes there are red flags that we don't expect, okay? So I invite him to my son's football game. And as we're sitting at the game, I'm doing what I'm doing right now, okay? I'm immediately on Facebook, scrolling on Facebook or whatever, and I'm just looking through Facebook and just scrolling. I'm not into football, okay? I did invite him to my son's game, but I'm not into football. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just scrolling and just looking, and as I'm doing that, I see he's kind of got an attitude. He kind of got a little bit upset, and I'm confused because at this time I'm like, well, what is he upset about? So I'm like, what's going on? What's the matter? What happened? And he's like, I'm just gonna leave because you're just on Facebook. So I'm thinking to myself, oh girl, what's wrong with you? You shouldn't have been on Facebook. Why would you be on Facebook? Or why would you be paying attention to your phone? You should be talking to him. So immediately I blame myself for this outburst. I blame myself for him being upset. I blame myself for him wanting to leave. And I immediately see things from his point of view. I see that I must be wrong. I should have been talking to him and paying him attention. Like, I should have been interacting with him more and not thinking that he's going to be into the game. You know what I'm saying? So that was red flag number one. Um, and then I chased him out. Like, when I seen he was leaving, I chased behind him. Like, what's going on? What's the matter? Blah 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 blah. Whatever. That was a whole red flag right there. And I did not pay it any mind because, in my eyes, I'm always trying to look at things from both points of view, both perspectives. And I'm always trying to make sure that I'm not wrong. Because when you've been in several relationships and they don't work out, and I'm not saying everybody, but for me, being in several relationships that didn't work out, I had developed something is extremely wrong with me complex. So that left me vulnerable to be open to, now I need to be extra pleasing and do absolutely everything I possibly can to make sure that what happened in my past relationships by me not being enough or me not being perfect doesn't happen again. So, fast forward, so that was the first date. Well, not really a date, but that was our first encounter. From there were just several times when he would have outbursts and be upset because of something that I did. And I always looked at myself like, what is wrong with you? Be better, do better. Like, even to how I look, like, you always have on fake nails and you got fake contacts in. Like, when you gonna be natural? Okay, let me take the contacts out. Let me take the nails off. Let me be natural for him. And he used to say, like, naturally you're beautiful. So why would you have all of that? So I'm like, I'm feeling amazing now because I'm like, oh wow, that was a compliment. Like, but it really wasn't a compliment because if you really think about it, even if you are naturally beautiful, right? We do things as women, as men, whatever. We do things that make us feel good. So if you decide that you want to go out here and you want to, for a man, if you decide you want to go out here and you want to get a boosie fade, okay, your hair don't naturally grow like that. Yeah, if you want to go get, if you decide as a man that you want to go out here and you want to get, excuse me, and you want to get a high top fade.